So I started off with establishing, just for the sake of the argument, let's call it the horizon. It's actually where a field is going to meet some distant bush. And it started here, and I've moved it down to here. Well, my hands are starting to get pretty charcoaly. And now I've moved it down to here. I think I'm pretty much halfway down the painting. You know, I think I've bisected it that way. Not worried about it. I think this is one of those times where you can ignore the rules, because this will not ultimately be the most dominant line. And it's going to be a little bit irregular. Nonetheless, it's a point of reference. It's a point. It's a starting point, right? And I've laid in a few placements of trunks here and there. I'm very unsure about the specific shape of each trunk. I know that I don't want them to be spaced equally apart. I know that I don't want them all leaning in the same, the same direction. And I know that I don't want them all of equal thickness. We need some variety in there. But still the rhythm of, the trunk, that sort of thing. But I think what I'll do is I've more or less established where the path is going to be. I know at the moment it looks like a highway. That's going to change. So, just to start somewhere, I think what I'll do is lay in a trunk here, and I think I'd like to have this one I'm being pretty bold here, but I'd like to have, this one leave the canvas. And even if it doesn't, that's fine. I'm just introducing the idea to myself for future reference that that's how it may go. Let's cap it there, because we're going to have some bush. Okay, that's one shape. That's one shape, and I actually, no. I don't want to get too hung up on that. So we'll just flick off the extra charcoal. And how about if we were to, okay, we know that's our most foreground trunk. I think of the whole painting, but not the most important one. Sometimes you have to take your boldest, strongest tree and make it somehow visually melt away into, so it becomes less important. Melt away into oblivion, no, but you don't want it competing with your focal area. Now let's take these two. I like the idea that leans in and that leans out away from our trail. So how about if we were to, and I like to put, it's not a branch, it's where a branch broke off. And certainly on deciduous trees you see a lot of that. It's just a hint of what used to be there, Oops, see, I think I've already gone down too low on that. Yeah, I think I'd like to weave these two, say about there somewhere. Because that's all I'm confident in, that's all I'm going to draw at the moment. That might change in seconds, I don't know yet. Oops, that's lining up with that. It happens so easily. It's not a big deal. Well, I shouldn't even try to fix it right now. I know that because I've set them on a similar level, that these two look like they might be just as far away from the viewer. Like these two might be farther away. But don't forget, that's also dependent on how I'm going to lay in the foreground. So for the moment, that's good. Actually, I'm going to get a little bit cocky, and I'm going to do that. Giving you that feeling, or maintaining that feeling a little bit. Okay, that's... See? Suddenly, that pushed this one in behind here. Even though if it was perfectly level, you know, if I drew a perfectly level line, they're pretty close. But just, you know, you're indexing things. You're dropping reminders for yourself as you go along, remembering to keep that one pushed back a little farther from that, just for the sake of the line drawing and the design in general. I had this drawn in. I'm a little apprehensive about that one. I'm just going to leave that for the moment. But let's go to another thing that I'm pretty confident in. I like this tree, but I think I'd like it a little closer to the edge. So let's try to copy that without making it too thick. And let's run a branch off the canvas. Why not? Why not? And maybe the possibility of another one off the canvas. See? Didn't like the shape of it. The placement's not bad. Oops, that's getting a bit rough. Just, you know, sure I'm drawing branches, but I'm really more than anything drawing possibilities of branches. Okay, now. So I have the base of the tree, so I'm not going to start drawing painting in the beginnings of roots. All I'm really doing is I have these bases of trees going like so. These bases of trees going like so. That's only because what's going to be happening here is these trees are bordering a well-worn trail. So automatically there'll be, you know, decades of foliage having grown up around the bases of the trees, and they fall down into this trail area. That's great, because if the sun is coming from this direction and coming down, you know, some areas here will catch some light, and these areas here will catch shadow. That gives us shape. We have all this area. You know, I have all this area that I have to explain myself in, and that's going to be quite a challenge. But as I said, it's not what you paint, it's how you paint it. And I might be getting in over my head, but getting in over your head, that's the fun part. So I suppose the next thing we should do is establish the outline of the foliage. All the stuff within that outline will be more subtle, but I think we should outline that. You know, the foliage on these trees is going to be catching light on the left-hand side. The foliage from these trees is mostly going to be overhanging us and we're looking up into it. So it's mostly going to be in shadow. So let me just try to get some kind of a line going here that's going to help us. I don't want to dip too far, down into here. Because I think I would like to have a bit of sky showing through. You know, we are looking up a little bit through the trees. I'd like to have a bit of blue sky showing, which is much better than orange sky. Sorry, another stupid joke. Okay, I'm not sure about this. Okay, I think that might be a little angry and a little bit low. And okay, that's a close tree. That's behind the trunk. I don't know. Can you kind of see what's going on here? It's. I know it might seem kind of strange, but shadow, light, shadow, a bit of light, shadow, light. And fading off here. I mean, this is going to be higher value, but it's going to need to be a lower chroma, a cooler temperature, but still in autumn colors. That's the plan. I either go with redder trunks and greener leaves, or with whiter trunks, aspen, birch, what have you, and yellower leaves. I haven't decided that yet. What matters is where the light and where the shadow lies, and of course the general outline of things. Now, of course, we're going to need some kind of foliage elsewhere. Right? This might even end up cutting right across the trunk, because that's a lot of trunk on the edge of the painting without interruption. In fact, why don't we just do it right now? Okay. Sorry about all my sighing, my heavy sighing. It's not that I'm old, I'm just a whiner. Okay, it's a start, okay? That's again, you know, every time we touch this thing we try to improve it. But we're dropping hints, we're dropping a trail of breadcrumbs as we compose this thing so that we can come back and revisit them and say, okay, did that work? Did it not work? I don't know. Or, you know, we're quite happy with it. Alright, I think so far that's not bad. And that's intuitive. I'm not worrying about rules of design, except of course where light and shadow go, and general shape. But there's a lot of intuitive stuff. You just throw it in there and see, you know, see what you have to correct afterwards. Because you're always going to have to correct something. Now, here. What if okay, that's a strong line coming down and then comes up. Yes, I know. I'm ghosting in my lines. I'm thinking about them, but I have to trace them in the air. It's just how I do. I'm not trying to be a weirdo. It's just how it goes. Okay, for the moment that's good. That's going to hold its own. And I'm happy to have left a space between the canopy of these trees to allow some sky showing and the top of what will be eventually some pretty sunlit trees in the background. Because the most intense yellows and oranges are going to be in this area, which does fit well because they'll be adjacent to the blues. Good contrast, you know, sort of a dramatic contrast. Now, I need to do something with this. I like that, but I need to connect some dots there. Not dots, but lines. Some ideas of where to put some interest. Okay, I think that's all right. Now there are going to be a couple of more trunks back here. I don't know if they're going to have a lot of foliage, and they're not going to be from here up. That's the distant bush. They're going to be somewhere around here. I need to establish some very strong lines where the high definition of design and chroma / value are going to exist, because really there's more space here. Okay, that didn't even make sense. We're going to have, if the sun's coming from here, we're going to have the dark side of some trunks. Here is where we want our most intense colors, our most, the biggest dramatic changes between warm and cold, and probably the most interesting shapes that we can come up with will sit around here as well. And I think this is only a guide, okay? But see this line that I had here? I'm changing it just a little bit. It's not something I'm going to follow necessarily. It just helps me to put things in perspective. because there will be no vertical line in here. Ultimately, all the lines are going to be sweeping, hopefully flowing, but they'll be mostly horizontal, you know, with sort of a wave action, some movement. And that's only if I'm successful. We will see. So this is all, so far, fine and dandy. I like it. But as I have stood back and looked at it, I think what I need to do is, it's funny, you know, my first idea was yeah, like as I said, horizon here, then it went there, then it went there. I think it's going to stay about there, but we'll see, because now what I'm seeing when I look at this is I would like to have, and this isn't about justifying anything. This isn't about plausibility, because you can change plausibility. But I think what I'd like to have is a line across here, and that almost looks like a more natural place to hook the foreground up to the background. Okay, I'm not going to use a straight edge for the next one, because things start looking unnatural too easily if you use a line all the time, or a straight edge all the time. But what I think I'd like to do is, what if we were to come up here? And what if we were to put another tree, like this tree that I separated from this group? I still want something here. I like the idea of a shape there. I'm not sure what kind of a shape to put there yet. But what if we were to just put something like that there? And you know, I think I'd like to have the remnants of another tree here. Anyway, we're getting into details. I shouldn't get too silly that way. All right. Time to be a bit careful. Time to be a little bit careful there, but I don't mind the idea. You know, as soon as you see a straight line, you think there's, what, a body of water behind there, you know, what have you. I don't want to go in that direction, really. What if that tree also had some foliage on it instead of just a stump? You know, you could do that. Or a stump, just a trunk. Yeah, that could work. But I don't want a trunk and a stump and a trunk and a stump. Don't like that notion. It's just a little too predictable. Monotony. Okay, I think I'm getting a little bit silly here. Because all you're seeing now are the lines I'm putting on. And these lines can be bent this way or that way so much by the way in which you apply light to them, you know? Honestly, it's even with your line drawing, your sketch, there's so much more you can do to refine things as you go. And that's what I usually do. So it's really important not to get too worried about small things. Just don't sweat the small stuff. I think we're heading in the right direction though. Yeah, so far so good. Well, here's a line that I've drawn several times on this painting. And I'm going to do it again. I know you can't see very much very much definition of the lines that I have up here. I'll correct that shortly, just by dropping the painting so you can see more. But what I need to do is establish this track, and this track is not going to take us way off into the distance. By the looks of my decisions here, it's going to be, you know, a track for vehicles or whatever, a path, an old path that goes up and then turns left and goes down the hill a little bit, and then goes into a field in the distance. So as you know, I've drawn a bunch of lines here. I'm just going to do it one more time. Yeah, he says bravely. Okay, that was wrong. Still wrong. Still wrong. I'm very good. I'm very good at getting things wrong. I may be better at getting things wrong than most people. Okay, that line is going, it's going to go again. But what I'm trying to do is establish, you know, you have a swale from a well-worn track and another swale on the other side, right? Tires, center line that is beginning to grow in. And it's not really about the grass or the sand or what have you. It's about which side of this line does the shadow fall on, and which side does the light fall on. And I might be approaching this in the wrong way. Maybe I shouldn't worry about it, and maybe I'm not going to worry about it. Maybe what I will just do is say, okay. That's the line of our foliage. You know, tentatively. And that's the line of our foliage. That should not line up with that. That's a little too close. Okay, so that's each side of the trail. So we're acknowledging that that's where, you know, what, the grass, the ground cover meets with the dirt. Now we have to change our way of thinking and say, all right, that's great. But we also need to think about where the shadows are. And these trees are going to cast shadows across the path. And I think what we need to do is, certainly in a painting like this, we have this band of interest. We need to close it off at the bottom. Going back to the whole idea of darker towards the bottom. So, nope. Okay, you know what? I think I might be just confusing the issue now. Yeah, I know I am. Because it's only a line drawing. You know, for the sake of illustration, I'd hope to make it very clear, but that can be a bit difficult. I think, you know what I'm going to do for the moment? This is going to be toned down, value and chroma-wise. The scene really exists for the most part up here. Focal area for the most part is in here. And I think that's the way we'll just look at it for the moment. Okay. The lines towards the top of the canvas are more gestural and quick, but I'm very happy with how they turned out. I'm not going to just go over them to emphasize them, because I don't need to. I think that when I start with some paint thinner and some paint, it'll all become very clear. But that is the drawing for the most part. Well, yeah, for the most part. Okay. Well, you know me, I change my mind every 10 seconds. And I thought what I would do is actually redefine some of these lines. And yeah, it's for the sake of the video. That's okay. I think it's kind of important that I show you what's going on here, because I can easily remove anything that has to go. I'm not going to redraw all this in here, but I did want to just show the outline, you know, of the important parts. Because they're important. You know, so you can sort of get a feel for what's going on. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Boy, look at all that charcoal dust drop off of there, eh? When you start flicking your finger against it. You know, in charcoal, if you lay it on too heavily, it does make for a mechanical barrier, right? Because you need your oil paint to soak through that charcoal dust, which in this case is inert. But still, the less you can end up with on the surface of your canvas, the more helpful it is to the oil paint as far as sticking is concerned. And I'm just seeing a silly little thing that I'd like to block out. Okay. Okay. That is it for the moment. We will talk to you soon.